Hey everyone, Professor Oak, and boy, do we have a data video for you this week. I I think you're going to be very interested in these numbers. So let's dive into it. We have the population report for the amount of PSA graded WOTC Pokemon cards for this week, and pretty astonishing. Some pretty crazy stuff. So base last week we talked about base not being the highest amount graded in total, but here we can see that it went up 1%. The population of graded base cards, 4,000 over cards were graded from base set this week. Of that, around 10% were PSA 10s, which is pretty good. And then of that, just 7 were PSA 10 hollows. So in 1 week of grading over 4,000 base set cards, 7 of them were PSA 10 hollows. I had no idea getting into this data what was going to come out, how we were going to look with the PSA 10 hollow population through the WOTC generations, but wow. I mean, we talk about a huge backlog. There's a lot of talk of how many cards are sitting there, how many coming back. There's not many PSA 10 hollows coming back from base set. And when we're jumping into jungle and fossil, pretty similar. So we've got 1300 jungle cards graded. Roughly 10% got the PSA 10, but 5 PSA 10 hollow jungle cards this week added into the population. It's nothing. We don't have PSA 10 hollows coming back. I mean, how many of those are even going to come up for sale? That could be 5 people that have sent their personal collections in and got those. So I'm astonished. I'm sure you guys are too, but this is much, much lower than I was expecting. I was thinking at least double digits. Jumping into fossil again, it's very similar numbers. We're talking about a $1,500 increase in the amount graded this week for the fossil set. A little over 10%, maybe 15% almost, came through as tens, but just 8 English PSA 10 hollows. And moving into base 2, 500 was sent in and graded this week for base set 2. 1 was a PSA 10 hollow. Astonishing. Obviously, it's much lower pop. There's only 800 in total anyway, but it's just a significantly low number. I mean, there was an increase in the PSA 10 hollow population of 0.12% this week. So we're talking about, PSA grinding through this huge backlog and all these huge numbers of cards coming back. Not WotC hollows in good condition. It just shows you how many were not hollow sent in, and there's a lot of steering towards the rumors that, which you can kind of see for yourself and say for yourself, PSA may be getting harsher. Maybe there's one because 5 years ago maybe that would have been 10 with 500 sent in. Maybe it would have been 50. Who knows? These numbers just look incredibly low. Um, and even for the tens, I mean, 500 cards sent in, 76 of them tens. When we're talking 10-15% of the cards being PSA 10s, you're going to see with the totals at the bottom what a difference that is compared to the actual previous like population that's in there. I'll get into that at the end. You're going to find it pretty interesting, these numbers specifically for this week in comparison to the actual total of the populations for each. Rocket, it's one of only 2 sets that were in double digits for English hollows grading as a PSA 10 this week. Rocket, and you can see here Gym Challenge got 18. Heroes, not too many less than Gym Challenge, but only 8. Actually exactly 100 less than Gym Challenge was sent in, but only 8. So less than half of those were PSA 10 hollow in comparison to Gym Challenge. Don't know what's going on there. Moving into Neo sets, 432 Neo Genesis cards sent in and graded this week. 15 came through as a 10, and one was a holo. One PSA 10 holo was added to the population for Neo Genesis this week. Insane. Crazy low numbers. Um, Moving further down, you'll start to see Neo Discovery, 3 PSA 10 holos in there. Neo Revelation, 0. Not a single PSA 10 holo from Neo Revelation. Not one for Neo Destiny. Not a single for the Legendary Collection after the Neos. Moving into Expedition, only 177 cards graded. 0 were an English holo, grading a 10. Insane. I really did not expect these numbers to be this low. Aquapolis just 136 graded, and Skyridge 116, barely into triple digits, and consecutively 1 English PSA 10 holo for Aquapolis, 2 for Skyridge. Incredibly low numbers. What's going on there? People not sending in good cards, PSA more strict. I want to know what you guys think in the comments. I think it's maybe a mixture of everything. We're talking about, these are the November, December value cards for the most part, I would think, from the November, December 2020, a little over a year ago. The majority bulk of these numbers coming through. So I can't imagine there's too many common cards and non-holos being sent in at Express and that kind of level right now. So this one or two could potentially be ones that were sent in a couple of months ago under the higher services, but I would think most of these are probably sent in with just the sheer bulk that was sent in back then. What you're really going to find interesting is, so these numbers are pretty low. If we move down here, I did this little section. I really wanted to crunch the numbers as a whole to compare this week's compared to the actual total. So we can see that they graded 12,500, a little over 12,500 WOTC Pokemon cards this week. 1448, so 1,500 of those, little over 10% were a 10. So that's pretty comparable with what we've seen in the sets going through those numbers. But a PSA 10 holo, 71 out of 12,500 cards. There were just 71. What's the PSA 10 holos graded this week? How many of those are collectors? How many of those are investors? How many of those are people just looking to flip? How many of them don't even know what they're going to do when they come back? Maybe sell it if it gets a good grade, maybe sell it if it gets a low grade. Everyone has a different perspective and a different approach to this stuff, but 71 cards in a week when we're talking about them grading 5 digits, it's crazy low. I also managed to filter out, against that, how many came through as a 1 to 9. So that's including holo, everything, but anything lower than a 10, 11,000. So out of 12,500, over 11,000 of them were below a 10. Now the percentage that came in as a 10 in this next section, you can see 11.52. A little more accurate. I said a little over 10, but 11.52%. You got a 1 in 10 shot, basically, if you send in good cards, of getting that 10. Now, that's interesting, but if we look at the actual graded 10 population for the totals, it's almost 20%. So we've got 20% of the population of those cards, but for this week it's only 11.5%. Guys, what's going on? Is PSA grading more strict, like I was saying? Were people at that particular time sending in more trash than they were in the years prior, the last 20 years before that? There's so many questions there, but that's a significant drop. That's over 8% drop. Total wise, that's from 20 down to 12. That's a 40% drop if you're looking at it that way in terms of comparing against each other. A 40% drop in the amount of cards coming in as 10s. And then when we're looking at PSA 10 hollows, we went from 4% in the population being a PSA 10 hollow to this week the amount graded were 0.5. That is insanely low. 0.5 of the cards graded this week. 0.5%, half a percent. 1 in 200 cards came in as a 10 hollow. Insane. And then pretty much 90%, creeping up to 90% came through as a 1 to 9 grade. Previously, you can see in the totals, we're floating around the 80%. So a huge rise in lower graded cards. That's just the general theme, regardless of hollow or not hollow. Just much, much more, a 10% more lower grade cards below a 10 than what the history dictates based on the population. Fantastic data. I really hope you guys enjoy this first full week of pulling this data. It's the third week pulling it, but I've drilled it down more concise. I know a couple of you guys, Dan, Catch More Collectibles, Shovels, both great participators in the Pokemon YouTube realm. You both asked for this, wanted to see what this looked like, and there you go. I mean, nobody's pulling this, so I hope you guys get the word out and get some views on this, because people need to see what's going on right now. This is pretty important, and if you're talking about investing, collecting, whatever it is, these numbers, some of these sets, pretty low. Look at these Neo Legendary Expedition. I mean, these latter end of the WOTC generation of Pokemon, before Nintendo was jumping in there, not many. So you can see why the value is there. I don't think it's going anywhere. These numbers aren't jumping. So we'll take a look next week. I'll be pulling this again next Sunday. We'll see what comes through with that. But this has given us a pretty good indicator for what's going on in terms of actually getting pumped out of that backlog and flooding the market, as everybody keeps saying. So let me know what you think. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. We're really trying to get this going. I want to get the word out, get people's eyes on this, get people informed of this data. This is important stuff. So help me out with that, guys. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. I want to get your opinions. If you think there's something else missing, something you think explains that reasoning, or if you agree with me that it's a bit of a mixture of, is it PSA grading harsher, which I think is a strong part of it? Is it people just sending whatever they can in just to try and get it graded and flip? I think there's many different options that could be going on, but it's pretty cool to see. So thanks, guys. We'll wrap that up. Hope you've had a great weekend, and let's crush this week. Bye.